Welcome back. So here we are. You've made your choice. You made your choice between two. You had a choice, HR Revolution, what HR needs to start doing, or what HR needs to stop doing. The others are on the other track, but remember, everything you missed on the other track, don't worry, you'll be able to see this on demand when it's eventually available. So you're not actually missing a thing. All you're doing is just deciding right now where you want to spend your time. And you want to spend your time listening to ideas on really what HR needs to start doing. Now, what does HR need to start doing? We're about to find out in a healthy discussion about to unfold right now. So let's bring in our moderator who's going to shape this conversation certainly in the right way. And that is Blanka Lasic. Blanka?
Hello. Well, I'm so happy to be here. And it was not so easy choice to go where something is stopping or where something is starting. So, yeah.
So we're starting, and we're going to start with you. Right, I'm going to leave it up to you. Towards the end, I will pop back in. If we have questions and comments, I'll pop back in, and then we can have that exchange when that comes up. How does that sound?
Thank you, Peter. Looking forward to it. Well, hello, everybody. We are in the 4th day of the HR week, and we are in the day of HR development, actually in the revolution in HR development. So I'm Blanka Lasic, and I'm the host of the panel, What HR Needs to Start Doing. So HR people, I'm also from HR. Don't be afraid of everything that we are going to say. We believe that you have great practices and great work, but somehow we believe that it's really time to start doing some revolution. So I'm in a good company, really good company, really inspiring people. I have my panelists, and they are Dragana Militic, trainer and coach in leadership area. We have Žana Gojić-Petričević, consultant, trainer, and book author. And last but not least, Alan Žepec, coach, entrepreneur, book author. And I don't want to go deep into their biographies and everything, because I truly believe that you know them and you were actually working with them. I also know that. So let's skip to something that is really important before the panel, what HR needs to start doing, and that is we want to say our dearest Nevena, happy birthday, Nevena.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Nevena.
Okay, Nevena will kill me after this. Okay, so let's start it. How are you feeling? Are you okay?
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we will shake up this conversation from the start. So it's a question for everybody. Okay, so please just give me some insights, what you think about it. Where do you see opportunity for revolution in HR now? So, Dragana, we can start with you.
Yes, first to say it's really nice to see you all and to be part of HR Week again. I remember Summit when we were together. It was a couple months ago, HR Summit, and talking about revolution. I would say that I remember back then when we were all together on HR Summit, we were all thrilled to see that this shift that we were talking so much about, from supportive to strategic role in HR, actually has happened. And it was like, yes, based on experience, insights, examples that our colleagues shared, yes, HR has, in a lot of companies, chair in this leadership, on this leadership table. And it was really great to see. And then you asked me, like, what is the revolution, next revolution? I would say maybe it's bold to say, but the next revolution is not to be partner on that table, but to be a leader on that table.
Mm-hmm. Great. I really love this. And of course, you're working in the leadership area. So of course, you see that really focused and strong. And you said something that is for me really cool. And I would like to focus more on that word, not at the beginning, but we will hear about it at the end. So you mentioned something that it's called bold, and when you hear the word bold, you have to speak with Jana. So Jana, please tell me, what is the revolution now or in the future in 2023 for the HR development and leadership?
Okay, so thank you for connecting that word with me. That I like to hear that. So basically, I was thinking at the moment you asked the question, Blanca, what is the revolution? And obviously, as I was preparing a little bit for this panel, came across the term which really landed with me, and that is ethical revolution. Right. So I know that we're all speaking about digital revolution and all these lovely, fancy things and platforms that are supporting the outcomes that we want. But I think that especially after COVID, we are very much talking about the ethical revolution, which means, and I'm going to build on what Dragana is saying. So, which means if HR is really bold, what about thinking not short term, how we sort out some of the things, but long term, how is it that we shape people's relationship with work? And how does ethical revolution come into that conversation? So that for me feels like a bigger conversation for which you would need to be bolder. And sorry, everyone, I'm sitting on a Pilates ball, so I've just realized I'm jumping as I'm speaking. That I'm in a hotel and designer didn't imagine any other chair to be here. So just to give you an insight why I'm kind of moving in this funny way.
Thank you, Jana. And I'm so happy that you mentioned that, because I was really keen to tell everybody, people, Jana is sitting on.
Because I just realized that I jumped as I was speaking. So
Yeah,
So,
thank you for that
this
also,
is-
Jana, because I wanted to ask you, why are you going like this?
because she's so happy because of the topic and this panel and this crowd. So this is happiness in her. So thank you for sharing that. Maybe this is revolution in panel discussions. You can be totally authentic, you can be on the ball, you can be in the bed, I don't know. So back to moving forward to Alan, same question, revolution in HR.
Wow. Blanca, I didn't expect that question.
I know.
So,
I know. So you know me. I like
jump on a
to
ball,
be
Alan. It will
challenging.
give you ideas.
what came immediately to my mind, according to that question, is that generally I don't believe in the revolution.
Huh?
I believe more in small incremental 1% or 0.1% development every day. And in one moment when things look like revolution, actually it's not a revolution. It's the result of these small incremental changes that happened over time. So if we focus from not going into like a big shape, but a small shape, for example, in both of directions that Jana was talking about and Dragana was talking about, it will happen at the end of the day. And these two directions, Dragana about putting HR in a leading position within the company, and Dragana and Jana putting the HR in this how we relate to our work and our workplace. That's that would be a revolution itself. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So you don't believe in revolution, but you believe in evolution. Is
Ah,
that correct?
nice.
Okay, so we want to be really practical in this panel. We had this agreement because you guys are in business. You have your companies and you work for the business, and you're all the time in co-creation and co-working with HR people and business people as well. So let's be really, really, really practical as much as we can in this format. So, Dragana, when you work with HR leaders and you work in this leadership area, how can we really visualize and in practical way explain people how to come from sitting as a business partner to sitting as really being a HR leader?
Yes, thanks. I would like to build on what Alan said. It's really what is the challenge in this revolutionizing HR role? The challenge is because it sounds so big and so like almost dramatic, like we have to change everything, and it's huge. And what I unfortunately saw in some companies that when HR is presenting a role in this way, and some developmental projects that HR is proposing, they sound so big, and then they are waiting for a green light and then they actually wait too long. The answer is actually what Alan said: small steps. If you are looking at a C-level and leadership and you want to become a leader on that table, it's one idea and it's a final goal, but take a small steps. Every conversation counts, every coffee counts, and look at them as a clients, also internal clients, employees at the end, and offer them support. Small steps. If you look at them, propose some programs for them, and then if you start from there, when they see what they can receive from you, it's a matter of time when their that relationship will change. And they will start asking for your support, not giving you green light. But steps are really small, like every listen to their needs and offer support. And it's really like every coffee, every conversation, everything counts. And look at them as actually the first target group for development.
Thank you, Dragana. And Alan, I just wanted to ask you regarding the development, because we now started with Dragana and leadership development in the HR. Mainly when we speak about HR development, or we focus on how can HR be better and efficient and more strategic and more revolutionary and everything in regarding to develop others. Okay, but and really where does HR go when they feel like terrible, when they feel like challenging, when they feel like, yeah, but who is looking for us on us in our development? So I'm just wondering, what is your perspective in that part? Like HR is building people's capacities and skills, and who is building HRs? Alan.
I mean, there are two ways here. Yeah, and one way is okay, how we develop ourselves, and generally I think HR is quite good in that. When I'm seeing our programs, personal development programs in company, and coaching programs, there are many HRs there that are coming there. There are many HRs that are asking for also individual coaching. If we see the summit that we had in Montenegro, HR working together and learning among themselves, that was a great example how HR itself can co-create new ideas and share knowledge. I mean, this conference, we saw a symphony, for example, in the presentation before us. It was a great example of sharing a knowledge, and they are doing a great, I think, a great thing in this process of assessment and employing a new employees. So, and when you compare Serbia, Croatia, our region with the Western companies, I don't see any difference, any special difference. So what I can see is that people here really work on themselves and really learn a lot, and really maybe have even more freedom to try things than with the companies that are in Western, more structured, maybe more developed environment. what I think generally that when I see the competencies that HR is showing is generally it's more the competencies on a process level, and I think the results here are really well. What I think it can be more better on a relationship level or on a developmental level, like IHR, helping my not even managers but employees in developing themselves and in helping them solve the everyday situation. And here I'm not talking about the situation about, I don't know, sexual harassment or ethical issues, but everyday situations. I don't know how my leader is leading me. How am I? Um, how I will give feedback to my leader about his leadership or her leadership. So I read an article in Harvard Business Review a few weeks ago, and it was about what HR could start doing more in the organization. And they also said, according to all research, HR is really good in processes. But what they miss is more support to to employees regarding the culture, the leadership, the soft stuff. And they said, okay, as HR needs to advocate more as coaches. For example, to have a coaching sessions with employees who are in need, to advocate more as mediators. So to put yourself as HR in a position of mediator and try to, to mediator. Usually, the focus of the mediator is to translate the language from the leader and from the employee, and to try to shape the perception of the both, and then at the end to advocate as a mentor and to lead the employee to some or share the experience with the employees about how can they solve the situation with their leaders. So
Okay,
I think
can I just stop you for a moment, because everything that you said now, it's I totally agree, and it's really great. But somehow it's calling me to go over Jana, because we were talking about. I just hear I hear a lot of need for self leadership. You really have to be really like capable to have like great self-awareness and leadership in you and leadership around you. So I was just wondering what Jana would like to tell us more regarding the self-leadership in this context.
Yeah, I love the question, Blanca, and I'm thinking how I'm going to build on both Dragana and Alan in what they're speaking about in terms of self-leadership. And I also see one of the comments there, who's supporting and motivating HR. So it's leading by example, and you can lead by example if you're able to lead yourself, right? So that's the first prerequisite to be able to lead by example. So what I've heard and it made impact on me is when Dragana was speaking about actually HR giving themselves permission to take that role as leaders, right? And if I just mention one of the definitions of leadership that impacted me the most is giving yourself permission to be who you are and then taking the responsibility for the impact, right? So leading yourself is a risky business. Or you can park yourself aside and just go and operate in a non-authentic way, right? But knowing what really matters to you, knowing what is it that you stand for, like as HR in that company, what is it that you stand for? And then giving yourself permission to bring that out there. And normally this is not about having something like, it's not a rocket science. This is what Alan is speaking about. Many times it's a simple conversation. But the thing is that these conversations are many times courageous conversations. They're not easy to have, right? We kind of think we need to be clever. How are we going to put these steps out there? And we need to, in a way, we're being task oriented with conversation, when in fact conversation is about relating. It's actually about stepping into the fire and say, hey, we're listening to the culture here. We're listening to what we call in coaching language, to the third level. We're hearing what's going on, and we need to open up these conversations. And we may have also ways to help you stay in that conversation and deal with these issues. But for HR or anyone else to be able to do that, you need to go through it yourself. Right? You need to go through that development yourself. You need to know how to open up such conversations and how to cross your own edges, meaning all of your uncomfortable stuff and not knowing how this is going to end. If you take that role, if you open up that conversation, if you bring up that idea, if you not just bring up that idea like, oh, it will be good, but if you take a stand for it, this has to happen in this company if we want to drive the culture in that direction. Now, that's a risky thing to do. But basically for me, just one kind of closing point. It comes down to either you cross that edge and take that risk, or you simply, stay marginalized.
Yes, so this is like a great visualization of what Dragana was telling in the beginning. Like either you're in the HR leader role and you're among the leaders and decision makers, or you're just like all the time in this only in supportive and service role, which is great. We don't want to put that away, but we want to combine that impactful and revolutionary. And you were like, your body language, Jana, was
because imagine what kind of impact so Alan has already acknowledged HR for all the good things that they're doing. Now, this is not about saying what they're doing wrong or any one of us. This is literally about that typical simplistic thing, going from good to great. Imagine the impact if you can take that next bold step, right?
Great. I just love this. And Dragana was starting with that. I really loved when you said like everyday impact is everyday conversation or everyday coffee or lunch or chit chat in the hall or something like that. So Dragana, please tell me what conversations are needed now. What do you feel and see and hear now in working with HR?
When I said every coffee counts and every conversation counts, on one side it's like something that should look spontaneous, but on the other side it's really important with whom you have a coffee and how this conversation look like. And it's really important what Jana said, to be bold in this conversation. So when I was listening to Alan and Jana, and I also felt this, Jana, when you said like, I don't know, is it because of the ball, but your energy was like this. And we are actually talking what HR should start doing. And Alan also said, what we are talking, this summit and HR week is something how we actually motivate ourselves and how HR is motivating. And now when I combine all of this, actually on practical level, how we come from this to the coffee. What I saw in companies where HR is, let's say, everywhere you can see more or less impact, but like success stories, first you do this, you have your HR community and you talk about what we as HR community should start doing. Then you go to your own company and HR in that company have the same conversation. So what are we going? What is our vision? What is the revolution? How are we going to achieve this? And then you decide, after you do all this start stuff in our company, some strategical meeting, then you decide on how are you going to do that. And you organize internally coffees and everything, because you have your small HR community in your HR department in organization. And in organization, when I saw HR doing this, and I was lucky enough to be facilitator in some of these strategical meetings, internal strategical meetings in HR, they really organize themselves, searching not just for formal C-level leaders, but also informal leaders, doing this kind of networking, leveraging expectations, influencing colleagues, and then those conversations and those coffees really had impact. So on one hand, it's something which is like really small steps, but still you need also this strategical organization. How are we going to do this? And this balancing between organization, strategical, and small coffee and conversation steps is actually, I would say, key in progressing on this revolutionary road.
Okay, Alan, can you just please tell me more about this shift from process level in the HR, where HR is really strong and great and with many competencies and capable to do great processes and great practices. But what's the shift from process level to the level? How did you mention it? Developmental. What needs to be done? Like, what's the major step? What's the burning issue?
For example, it would be good, or one suggestion is that if you are an HR, that you create some kind of small research within your company, an interview with regular employees, and to ask, okay, how do you see us, HR, in helping you in your everyday situations, in your conflict situations, in your dilemmas, in your maybe insecurities. So it's really it would be a good insight for HR to have this kind of information. And maybe you would be surprised if you have an answer that maybe I, as an employee, don't have a perception that HR really can change, influence, or help my position with my boss, with a team culture that I am surrounding with, and I'm not comforting with. So, for example, this would be a first step for me, to really have an insight from employees, not from the leaders, but from the employees. How do I feel, and what is my perception of HR? And then, according to this feedback, to really see, okay, what I need to do, what we as HR function needs to do. And maybe everything's fine, but maybe it is really okay. We were so much focused on all the processes that is functioning well, and maybe now we need to go more into the like Dragana and Jana said, conversational support using coaching techniques, mentoring techniques, mediation techniques, and so on, and go and change maybe the perception of employee of the HR. And this is a culture part, and this is not something that you can do like that. But in the long term, this is really, my perception, really important game changer regarding HR and employees, not HR and top management, but HR and regular employees relationship.
You just sparked something thoughts about sometimes or many times in HR we focus on working directly with managers, C-levels, because we want to have better culture, better processes, better everything for the employees. But now you're saying to focus more in direct conversation with employees, and not, of course, to ignore the C-level and management. We need them, but somehow to shift focus to direct conversations with employees. And I really love that. And I will just mention, I'm going to Jana, and it's building upon the something that Alan told. It's the culture thing. And we now have a question, how to build the loyalty. And you, Jana, were mentioning integrity and ethical part of the HR development. So where does loyalty go there?
Yeah. So I was also looking at this question and just kind of thinking is well, actually what comes up for me is the question of trust immediately when I hear loyalty, and actually just looking back at a few interventions that we had in the, let's say, past 6 months with companies everywhere in the region, outside of the region, it doesn't matter. Kind of one thing pops up in common to all of these teams, and that is the topic of trust. Do we trust each other enough? And this is not that predictive based trust in terms of, we've got competencies, and if we said we're going to do something, we will. We're professional and responsible, la la la. But that is that vulnerability based trust. Can we have a conversation about everything? And can we have that open conversation, right? And here I want to build a little bit on what Alan is saying. So even though, Alan, you did not mention that word, but for me, what kept coming is this feedback-rich environment, and actually redesigning the way we collect feedback and from whom, right? So basically, again, what comes up for me is questioning. So how to build loyalty, how to ensure trust. Why don't we constantly question about the processes? Is there anything else that we could do? Is there another conversation that we could be having? Who else needs to be involved in this conversation that was probably not involved so far? So I know one concrete thing that gets in the way of that, and that is time. Because we seem to have everything. We all seem to have good ideas, but we come down to the lack of time. Right? Do we have enough time to be having these conversations, to be having these brainstormings, to be having these questionings, to set up some new practices? But I think that this comes down to choice. If we don't make time for that, we are going to have a long-term consequences, right? So long story short, to come back to that loyalty and trust again, we need to think about what are the conversations that we're not having, and that would make a greater impact if we do. These are probably uncomfortable conversations. These are probably risky conversations. Why don't we role model courage of opening them up and question who else needs to be part of these conversations? Maybe was not part before.
Yeah.
So that's
it's all about people and conversations and connection, and not about processes. So
exactly. But when we speak about conversations, this is not just, conversations can happen in a number of ways, right? We just finished one big conversation with 120 people in a company where the CEO was involved and the HR director was co-leading with us this whole event. And that was one big conversation. So conversation can be very much guided, right?
Yeah.
But what we mean by conversation is not just calling us from the outside, like external trainers, coaches, and so on, to download stuff at people, but to actually bring a safe space where conversations can happen.
Yeah.
Not that HR or anyone else would start depending upon us, but that they would learn and develop their own muscle to continue having these conversations, even without the external providers. Yeah. That is the way we're all going to change the culture, without making anyone dependent and making everyone empowered.
Yeah, thank you. This is so inspiring. I just have to add something. For me, all this loyalty, trust, and culture, it's simplified in a way. If it's about them, don't do it without them. So really know who to bring to the table and why, and what's the end of that conversation or connection or whatever. Dragana, when we were doing practices and conversations around the manifesto, HR manifesto, that hopefully it's going to build in the future much more. We in the area HR needs to stop and HR needs to start doing this. We came up to something that it's called Better HR for a Better World. And before that, we were mentioning trust. So how much trust there is in HR communities, like in sharing practices and really being open develop each other on that level, no matter are you in the corporation or small and medium, like what's happening there?
The good thing is happening there, I would say. And this event today and this week is actually the proof. We heard Symphony example before our panel. It's a really great example of sharing knowledge and experiences. And of course, in this field, things can always be better. But I'm really, really glad to see how trustful people in HR are. And we saw that in Summit this summer in Montenegro, and we see it again. So I would say it's a great thing. And when we were talking about better HR for better world, always our job is to find something which can be even better. So I would say that the things which are happening are really, really great. Networking between HR is also great. I would say that the next step is just to make sure that what is happening here, just to spread the word. For each of us to take like individual accountability, that we will spread the word to make this community even bigger, because who is already here, we are trustful. So just spread the word internally in the organization, all around the region. And I think that this thing is already happening, and it's really good.
Okay, thank you. And regarding the trust, Alan, please, we are liking this trust. Trust is like somehow our key insight, but it's really strong in development. Trust is like a major starting point. So, Alan, what can you say us regarding the HR developing others and themselves, and with that starting point of the trust?
The trust, the basics of trust is, and how we can count the trust is how people are open, how they are willing to share crazy ideas, how they are willing to share their mistakes, how they are willing to ask for help. So we can really count and we can see the data about the trust. And maybe like Jana and Dragana said a few times, maybe we all of us, including us here, we have to start with us here asking ourselves, okay, do I ask for help? Do I share my mistake? Do I openly communicate my feelings and my needs? Do I give openly feedback and have a tough conversation when it is needed? And then it will spread. It will, but all of us, this is the question for each individual within the company, starting with an HR.
Okay, so we are in let's say 6 minutes till the end. So we are going to like in a funnel. We are going to start not now closing, but we are going in that way. Everything that we mentioned here, and that is somehow needed. It's not on a process level. It's not on, I don't know, some digital level. It's not on some like hard skill level. It's all about like those simple and beautiful and magical people skills that we already have, like no matter if we are in HR or we are in, I don't know, finances or whatever. And like connecting to people, yeah, you need to have like that openness. You need to have that good intentions. You need to have like trust and everything. But let's be honest, sometimes in business, when everything is like tough, and I don't think like hard and some dark scenarios, but it's tough, it's challenging, it's dynamic, it's we don't know what's going to happen like tomorrow. And to skip that ordinary practices and ordinary way of working, I really, really believe that we need the courage and curiosity, and we need to have that bold leadership style, if I can say so. Just to hear you, Jana, because bold is Jana, Jana is bold. So tell us about how can I from tomorrow start to be bold in my ways in HR.
So I love what you say, because the first thing that came up for me was bold leaders are bold learners, actually. So I want to kind of bring back again what Alan was saying here, and Dragana as well. It does start with us learning how to do that, right? Because it's tough for us as well. We might be kind of training or teaching these things. When it comes to our own teams, it's tough. It's not easy. It's not like, oh, we know the perfect way to do all of that just because we're training that. By the way, they say that whatever you teach is something that you need to learn the most, right? So, boldness is something that we learn. Boldness is a muscle that we develop, but we need to develop it, right? We need to spend time in doing that. So this all comes down to soft skills that seem to be the hardest. Right? Yeah. Because they are the adaptive change, right? It's kind of easy, okay, with a little bit of disclaimer, what easy is, but easy to acquire some technical skills, right? Obviously not easy, you still need efforts and everything. But it's really hard to make the adaptive change, to kind of, if you've never been the kind of person that asks for help, to kind of start asking for help. If you're having really hard time not being liked, and then to start asking for feedback, which might not be the most positive feedback, and being able to stay with that information and do something about it. But it comes down to boldness. It comes down to courage. So I've read one of the, I never know the exact quote, but I know that this one is from Maya Angelou. So this is already good that I know who it's from. She said that courage is the most important, because without courage, you won't be able to exercise any other virtue. Because there will be moments where it will be difficult to exercise any other virtue if you don't have courage. And I would add integrity to that as well. And if you look at the values of the companies, you'll find courage and integrity almost everywhere. But I kind of feel that if we only have these two, we almost don't need to mention any other value, because this will make sure that we exercise everything else.
And we are at the end with this great thought of boldness in leadership. Back to you, Peter.
Absolutely. Listen, I mean, just listening to this conversation unfold, so many things that we really should start doing. Again, being bolder in our learning as leaders, being bolder in our approach. Again, the networking, spreading that further as well. Trust, learning to trust more and to build up that loyalty as well. So many things. And again, if you've been listening to this and you're curious, you'd like to know more, I'm sure you know that everybody on the panel on Blanca as well. But again, you can reach out and take those conversations forward as well. But in the meantime, listen, thank you so much for this intriguing conversation. But number one, thank you for your time.
Thank you, and thank my dear panelists.
Thank you.
Love you all, people. Be bold.
Thank you, Blanca. Thank you, everyone.